Hello Runeterrans! Today I want to tell a story of a legend. Everyone in the League community nowadays knows him as Necrit, the Lore Master. Even Riot Games themselves implemented him in the game Ruined King. But what's the story behind this intriguing YouTuber? Before we dive into the story, I would appreciate a quick like and subscribe if you enjoyed this style of content, of course. No further ado, let's discover the untold story of Necrit. Every good story starts with a humble beginning, so let's go back in time. If you go to Necrit's YouTube channel, you can see he uploaded his first video ever almost 11 years ago. As we can see, his content was mostly focused on League of Legends. He started off with a series called Counterpick, a series dedicated to inform new players how to counter difficult champions. As time progressed, Necrit kept posting videos about League content, but there wasn't a focus on lore yet. Only 4 years later, in 2016, we see an interesting change in his content. He posted a video about the strongest champions according to the lore. This video exploded with views. Apparently, League of Legends players were not only interested in the game, players were getting interested in the lore of the game. They were interested in the characters themselves and the world they interacted with. Interesting enough, 2 years before, in 2014, Riot Games encountered a huge problem with the League universe. At the time, League's lore was based around summoners. Summoners fought their battles to control the territories through the League of Legends, so the characters they fought with weren't really connected to the world. Concepts like summoners, fields of justice, and the League of Legends themselves were all an attempt to provide fictional context for in-game action. After a while, these early choices began to create unexpected problems. Every new champion needed a reason to join and remain in the league, and as their numbers grew, the net result was that over time the world started to feel small and eventually less interesting. The institutions Riot designed fostered creative stagnation, limiting the ways that champions, factions, and Runeterra itself could grow and change. Furthermore, the very idea of all-powerful summoners made champions little more than just puppets manipulated by godlike powers. The background Riot was creating to explain in-game action was ultimately restricting the potential narrative development of the game's defining characters. So, back to the year 2015, Necrit started to create more content based on lore. Riot was fully rewriting and updating background stories of all their champions, including new ones. It all started with the rework of Gangplank, with a whole new bio and short story. Also, Kindred was the first champion released with the new lore in mind, and Necrit started to focus fully on lore. Riot Games started to flesh out more stories and reworked many outdated champions like Poppy, Urgot, Swain, Warwick, Ezreal, Mordekaiser, and later on many more, like Nunu and Willem, Volibear, and the latest rework, Udyr. Riot released many stories that were shaping up a huge fantasy world. Stories about the Darkin, the Void, the Watchers, the Celestials, and other big threats to the world of Runeterra. The lore changed dramatically over the years, and eventually Necrit made a timeline video where he explains all the different events happening in the League universe, connecting dozens of stories for the first time. Necrit's channel was booming. Players were eagerly looking for this content. There was only one guy that explained the lore and stories of this massive expansive universe, and that guy was Necrit. Okay, let's hop over to the year 2018. After long hours of speculation on tiny parts of a small map, Riot gave us the long-awaited official world map of Runeterra, a huge pillar for the lore community. And Necrit, of course, made a whole video about it. Necrit's channel saw an immense growth in this year, and if that wasn't enough, Riot didn't stop. Riot was planning to expand the universe in different forms of entertainment. The days of just small stories were over. The time of comics arrived. Riot Games partnered with Marvel to create Ash War Mother, their first comic in a series, followed by the Lux comic and eventually the Z comic. But Riot didn't stop there. Also, the yearly cinematics for the new season improved into the tales of different champions in the established universe. 1 year later, in 2019, Riot released an official lore book. And at the end of 2019, we saw the grand reveal for the 10th anniversary of Riot Games. Riot could finally call them games with an S. Riot released their first game that had a huge influence on lore and story speculation. Legends of Runeterra. Legends of Runeterra contained all the possible stories and fleshed out a huge part of the world. And in my opinion, this is still one of the best resources to explore stories. 1 year later, we had the Ruination event. An event that was criticized by the player base, especially by Necrit. He even made a whole YouTube rap. Check it out, it's super funny and quite an accurate description of why the evil monetization teams have to slow down. At the time I felt like the stories were not as good as they were. Also, the Ruination event marked a big scar in the lore community. A lot of players were angry. The players felt betrayed with a cheap story to just boost skin sales. At this point, I can say in my opinion, Necrit and his YouTube collaborators united together to save the universe we love so much, and I want to thank him for that. Almost everyone who knows a tiny part of the lore of League watched a video from Necrit. Thank you, Necrit, for not holding back and criticizing Riot. And then the 2023 cinematic happened. But yeah, I did already make a video about that, so let's move on to the end of the year 2021. Just when all hope seemed lost, Riot Games and Fortiche had something under their sleeves, a secret weapon introducing the series of Arcane. It was immediately a massive hit. Critics rated the series as one of the best animation series to this day. One thing was for sure, Riot Games' narrative and lore was back in business. Shortly after the release of Arcane, the Ruination game came out after a delay, which makes me wonder maybe if the Ruination game was planned before the Ruination event, the event would be more acceptable. What was so special about this game? Riot Forge included Necrit as a guide and a lore master of the Shadow Isles, which blew my mind. Necrit was canon in the universe of League. Imagine being such a fan of a game that actually the Rioters themselves become a fan of you. So it's crazy because Necrit became a staple for storytelling through the not so accessible lore bits we got over the years. Even writers themselves followed Necrit, the lore guy. So this brings me to the last part of my video. I think Riot Games can call themselves very lucky to have a YouTuber that covers all the lore in a more accessible way. Imagine if we had to read all those little stories, which I probably did for some, but not all, because it's just sometimes I don't want to read on a screen or my phone. He went from just reading stories on YouTube to an established canon character that is also recognized as the Lore Master. Quite recently, Necrit posted 4 videos about the Riot MMO in development. These videos and his channel exploded through the roof. These videos were generating millions of views. It set up a hype of reaction videos from many YouTubers, including Esmongold, one of the most famous YouTubers in the MMO gaming sphere. Necrit is more than just the lore guy. Necrit is the backbone of the lore community, with a great passion for lore and stories. He keeps improving his content over the years, and I wouldn't be surprised if there comes a point where Riot Games just hires him as a part of the narrative team. But speculation aside, I want to end this video with a thank you. Thank you, Necrit. Because probably when you wasn't there, I wouldn't have this YouTube channel. And It's because of you I actually became interested in the lore of League of Legends. So a big thank you to the community and a big thank you to you. If you liked this style of content, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you in the next video.